But we were just covering the story of Strictly Come Dancing. Everything seems to have a COVID drama going on. They, of course, have got this jab row.
Yep.
There are 3 professional dancers there, as yet unnamed, who have declined to have the vaccination. And news has got out. The rest of the cast apparently are up in arms. The celebrity who was dancing with one of the pro dancers is furious. You put me at risk and all that. Now, there's 2 things I'd like to say about this. Is first of all, these people they're getting tested every day.
Yeah.
So what exactly is the problem? If they can prove they haven't got COVID, then why do they have to get the vaccination? But what worries me about this is what I want to talk to you about. This exemplifies a worrying trend that is going on right now, and that is that people who have been vaccinated seem to have taken it upon themselves to have the right to look down on people who've chosen not to, and to demean them and to demonize them. We've got to retain in this country the right for people to be able to make that decision. It's a basic human right to decide whether or not to have chemicals injected into you. And if people choose for whatever reason not to, we mustn't demonize them, must we?
We absolutely mustn't demonise them. And the last time we saw this kind of thing happening in medicine was in the HIV crisis, when it was first evolving and everybody was terrified and people with HIV were absolutely demonised. And we've now got documentaries about it, about the awful time they had and how terribly they were treated and why that should never happen again. And it is happening now. We're almost dividing and ruling within society on a medical treatment. Now, these are 3 athletes at the peak of their physical fitness who are very unlikely, if they get COVID, to be very ill with it at all. I mean, we can't guarantee that, but it's very unlikely. And they surely have the right to decide what they do with their body. And the thing I really don't understand is you have your vaccine to protect yourself. Now, why then you have to worry about anybody else, I just don't know, because you've done everything you can do to protect yourself. You can't do any more. And if these people are being tested every day, they're doing everything they are happy to do to protect you. And I think it's a really scary place that we get to, where we start dividing and ruling by medical treatments.
Indeed, and it does bring into sharp focus the question, if someone gets vaccinated, they have the right to feel protected against COVID, don't they? So why would they be worried about these people who haven't got been vaccinated?
They do have the right to feel protected against COVID, but we know that being vaccinated doesn't fully protect you against catching it, but it does minimise the chance of you dying, for sure. We've seen that in the figures. It does minimise the risk of serious disease. So we've done everything. And surely the fear with COVID was dying. Nobody wants to die, and that was the fear. So the people that have had the vaccine have done that, and they've done everything they can do. And this is a really scary premise. And I think we saw it. I was trying to think earlier. We saw it in South Africa, didn't we? I could never understand. I used to spend a lot of time in South Africa. It's a place I love. Why millions of people were able to be suppressed by so few. And it's because those millions of people were divided up to hate each other. They were divided up by colour and religion.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so you divide people up so that they hate each other, and then they stay controlled.
Yeah, well, we're getting very divided by the various issues surrounding COVID right now. Vaccination being right at the centre of that. Now, you wrote a powerful piece yesterday in the Daily Mail. The headline was, "Why do they think we are called family doctors?" Last time you were in, we discussed this. You passionately believe that GPs should move heaven and earth to see their patients. And you made that very clear in your strong article yesterday. But today, one of the top doctor has come out and said things will never be the same again. We're talking about Professor Martin Marshall. He's chair of the Royal College of GPs. He told MPs yesterday that seeing patients face to face in the way that it has been the prevailing system will change, and I think that's very depressing.
So I think it will change, but I think it doesn't have to change in this dramatic way that we have at the moment. I think there are plenty of people, young people, people who just need a quick script or something, who are quite happy to be seen remotely by video or even just by telephone, and that works. But I think there are lots of people who don't. There are people who want to be seen face to face and those that need to be seen face to face. And I think they should have the choice to be seen. And I think we need to look at both the choice from GPs and the choice from patients. So the patients that want to be seen should be seen. But also, if there are GPs who feel vulnerable from COVID, who feel that they don't want to be in that, let's mix those up too. So let's have those GPs doing the remote consults and the people that are happy to see patients, I see patients, seeing patients. But at the end of the day, I think, notwithstanding the fact that GPs work incredibly long, Kevin, and they do, some GPs work 16 hours a day, the paperwork is horrific, they are burnt out, they're going beyond the limit, many of them. But at the same time, we are family doctors and we need to find a balance, because what I think about is that if everything goes remotely, what will happen is GPs will talk themselves out of a job, and companies will come along like Babylon, who have already done it, and they will say, well, we can do all of your remote consultations, give us those patients. And then GPs will be sitting there without the patients, without the funding that comes with that, and be wondering how that happened. We saw patients before the pandemic, we can see them now.
We need to don't we need to kind of formalise exactly what's required of GPs, because I think lots of them, obviously present company accepted, and obviously I suspect the majority of GPs desperately want to see their patients, but there's a rather sizable minority who I think are rather enjoying finding this rather convenient, only having to do Zoom and phone calls. So what I'm saying to you, Renee, is surely we need a system by which there are some requirements about seeing patients, so that the ones who want to avoid it are not allowed to avoid it.
So we need some direction, and GPs are actually only doing what they were told to do, and they were told very clearly to put everything remotely. So they're still doing that, but the situation has changed, and I said that in my article. The other thing to think about, Kevin, is as we go into winter, we are going to still see COVID, we're going to see flu, and I think it could be a nasty winter. Do we want vulnerable people to pack inside a waiting room where they could be catching things that they wouldn't ordinarily have? So I think this is where we come down to a direction that every patient who wants to be seen should be seen, but they also need to know the risks, and they need to make the decision, well, do I need to go in? Do I want to go in? Do I want to take that risk? So I think there's, things on both sides, but yes, I think GPs need direction now.
Yes. Just a personal story, no big deal, but last week I got a bit of a bad leg. It's no big deal, but I didn't want to bother.
Do you want me to see it after?
No, I do not. I really don't. Yeah, I've got this really bad back. Can you help me out? So I rang the GP. I said, the surgery, and just said, I might need painkillers or something. They said, the doctor will ring you back. And I just absolutely 100% knew that he wouldn't ring me back. And he didn't.
So this I don't understand.
I bet he did. I mean, in fairness to him, I bet he didn't even get the message. That's my point.
But this I don't understand, because at our practice from the very start, nothing has changed. So all we did was move our appointments to telephone calls. They were timed. So if I said I was going to phone you at 10 o'clock, I phone you at 10 o'clock. They're 15 minutes long, so we get 15 minutes to chat. And so that's a proper consultation. So for us, nothing has changed. We're given exactly the same amount of appointments as we were before the pandemic.
Yes. So the other thing, I mean, these surgeries, GP surgeries, I mean, I know you're supposed to wear masks a bit and all that sort of stuff, but they're mask crazy. There's a big do not enters, and when you go anywhere near a surgery, I haven't been in a surgery, but I walked past my local GP the other day, and, inside it was like looking into the COVID crisis Christmas past. It was like kind of from something like the middle of last year. Everyone with a big mask on, big signs, don't wear, you can't come in. Why are they so coronaphobic? Why are they sort of stuck in the past of this crisis instead of trying to move forward?
So it's certainly the case at my practice where everybody wears masks, not when we're in there alone, but when patients are in, everybody wears a mask. And the receptionists are young girls, they've all been doubly vaccinated. Some of them have had COVID as well. They're behind glass screens, and so I don't understand it. And when a patient gets into my room, I've had COVID, I feel quite secure in, catching it or not, because I'm not going to catch it again, or it's very unlikely. I always say to the patient, would you like to take your mask off? But I can only do that in my room because, as you say, everybody else is absolutely wedded to patients wearing masks.
How many of you, do all the patients say, yeah, sure?
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting.